Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Salt and Burn This, a supernatural rewatch podcast. My name is Sammy,
I'm Valerie.
and this is the second to last episode of season one. Okay, so remember those coffee tables that I had that you saw me like partially refinishing?
Yes, my favorite coffee tables ever. Yeah.
So
You-
I'm like basically done with them. I painted the legs, and they were supposed to be black. Not a true black, but I picked like a kind of a cool toned black.
Mm.
And it totally looks purple. I'm
No,
so disappointed.
no.
It's like I've literally been working on these tables for months.
Oh
Not that
God,
it took me months to do it, but there was a lot of time in
it's
between,
a project.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a big project,
No.
and it was finally like, yay, I'm finally gonna have a coffee table to use,
What
and it's
a
purple.
bummer.
Yeah, so I'm still gonna use it, but it's just like,
But you're gonna look at it every day and be like, damn it.
well, yeah. I mean, the good thing is it just I could just get some black paint, just some actual true black paint, and just do one coat, and that's it. I don't need to prime it or anything like
Right.
that because it's already painted and it's towards black, so it's not gonna take a lot of coats to
It's never
cover it, but
easy, is it?
no,
Never. Oh God. I'm sorry to hear that.
it's okay. I also
Well.
learned that refinishing furniture is not really my don't want to really do that anymore.
Well, while you were like rebuilding furniture, my first day in town here, I broke furniture. I
Nice.
It was the end of the day. We got out onto the porch with a glass of wine and we were just gonna sit down and be like, phew. And I literally sat down on a chair and broke through it, like ass to the ground, feet up
Oh
in the
no.
air. Yep, stuck in the little round part of the chair. Yeah.
And that does nothing for your self-esteem either.
Right. How much weight did I say?
Right.
Yeah. But in my defense, I did not drop my wine glass. So there's
Hey,
that.
that's a pro right there.
Right. And before that, it turns out that the dryer in one of the apartments, the dryer hose wasn't connected. So if you ran the dryer, you were just blowing hot air into the apartment. So since I was I'll just say the smaller of the group of people
Uh-huh.
gathered, it became my job to shinny behind the dryer and reattach the dryer
Sure.
hose. That part, not difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Getting back out from behind the dryer
Oh no.
proved just as comical as me falling my ass through a chair.
God.
So, welcome to Chautauqua.
Yeah.
So yeah. So I'm gonna get as soon as we're done here, I'm gonna put the pedals back on my spin bike and then put my ass on it and ride. I
When did you get there? You got there.
Yesterday.
Oh, okay.
Yesterday. So it was arrive and break furniture. That's what I did. It was arrive, get stuck behind a dryer, freed
Oh
myself from
God.
behind a dryer, and then broke a chair.
And how long you're staying there? Like 2 months?
Yeah,
So you have 2 months for more incidents to happen?
absolutely.
Is this like the first day kind of sets you up
Yeah,
for success? Question
right?
mark?
Yeah. So, talking about supernatural,
Yeah.
I want to go back.
Okay.
As much as I loved doing the watch along, and I
Mm-hmm.
think you are definitely right. We should do this again
Yeah.
because I loved it.
Yeah.
I missed so much.
Yeah.
I missed so much, and I'm kind of kicking myself. The things we did discover, loved. But so I just want to point out a couple of things that I missed, if that's
Okay, shoot.
okay. Okay. One, we were so excited about, we thought we saw a sword in the reflection of Evelyn's glasses before she was beheaded in her living room.
Mm-hmm.
It was the razor.
That's what I
It wasn't a
figured. Like
sword.
after I was listening to it while I was editing, I was just like, why wouldn't
Why?
that be a razor?
It was a razor. It was a razor. But again, the TV we were watching was quite dark.
Yes.
So in our defense, but it was a razor. So I didn't want people to think like, they don't know what they're talking about. All the people who listen to our podcast, all the comments
All
we've gotten,
17 of them.
yes, about them. Um, a cute little note that the name of that awesome motel that they were staying in, that Dean and Sam were staying in, was called the Boogie Inn.
Mhm.
So so we were kind of right about the lounge lizard,
Yeah,
part
yeah,
of it.
yeah.
Um
Also, just that was also the set director's favorite motel that they did that
oh,
season
I'm
because
sure.
they loved like playing around with the themes and stuff, but they're like, no, the one in Providence was our favorite.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. I mean, there was even an 8-track player on the dresser with 8 tracks set up in front of it, which I thought was funny. And then this was just one of those things that you wouldn't have noticed unless you went back and watched the episode again,
Mhm.
that Evelyn, before she was beheaded by the child ghost,
Mhm.
was at the art auction house talking to the dad when Dean and Sam first came in. So she was already shopping
Oh,
at the house. So she was maybe looking for the painting.
maybe, or at least had
Y-
seen it and said,
Yeah,
"Hmm."
and had said,
Note to
"Hey, I
self.
want that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe I want this painting." So I just thought that was interesting that she was already planted in the scene.
Yeah. Wow.
Um, wasn't just a random old lady at the.
Mhm. Mhm.
So that's all I got for my "What Did Valerie Miss" segment of this podcast. I'm sure you guys can point out all the other things we missed, but those are what I was like,
Yeah.
wow.
Right.
Wow, we missed some big stuff.
I actually didn't rewatch it, so maybe I will and not notice anything different because
Well, again, it's because I'm going back and looking for
things. Yeah.
tidbits to post. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
so it's not like I go back and sit and watch an episode again just to take it all in. It's as I'm
Right.
studying it for the gifts and stuff that I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
oh my.
Season 1, episode 21, Salvation. Written by Sarah Gamble and Rael Tucker and directed by Robert Singer. Meg's back and she wants that gun. So she starts killing John's old friends one by one until he agrees to hand over the weapon, even if it means leaving his sons alone to battle the demon that killed their mother. So, you poor Netflix watchers out there.
The
This is
recap was like a heartstring pulling,
yes,
tear jerking type of
it was
recap.
a great recap. But the song playing over it is not just your standard supernatural instrumental kind of stuff. Originally, it is Carry On My Wayward Son from Kansas. The band Kansas, I should specify, just in case somebody, which becomes a tradition. I don't know. I don't think that they meant it to be a
It
tradition every year.
just was the perfect fit
Yes.
and it works.
Yes. So every season finale, they play Carry On My Wayward Son. However, in Netflix, for at least season 1, I don't know what song it is, but no, it was interesting because I watched the Netflix one first, um, and then the DVD one, and then when I heard Carry On, I was like, "Oh,
Oh,
interesting."
yeah. Yeah. There
So
was a lot of questions about like why that song, was it because of the lyrics or was it because it's by Kansas and the show takes place in speculation all the way around. I don't know if that's ever fully answered.
I don't know.
Uh,
I would just assume that it's because it's by the band Kansas.
Kansas.
And amongst all of the songs from Kansas, I think maybe that one fit the best, because there's a lot of great songs that they do.
Yeah.
Some are kind of a little bit downer, which maybe was not the right choice. So that reminds me, I've been wanting to tell this story the whole season.
Oh.
In high school, either my junior or senior year, my choir director went to the same church as Carrie Livgren, who is the guitarist for Kansas. And he somehow roped him into playing for one of our choir concerts, Dust in the Wind.
No.
Yes, so we sang Dust in the Wind to Carrie
With
Livgren,
oh.
playing the iconic Dust in the Wind guitar, like solo. I mean, I think it was just him. I don't think we had the piano at all. I think
Oh
it was
my
just him
gosh.
playing along to it.
That's amazing. That's so
It
cool.
is really cool. And But what was a bummer is at 16 or 17, I didn't really think about how cool it was. It's not till I was like looking back on it, I'm like, oh my God, that
That
that doesn't happen in Topeka, Kansas. Maybe in LA or New York, famous people come in and do
somebody's
it all
dad knows
the time. Yeah,
somebody. Yeah.
but that doesn't happen in the middle of the country like
Yeah, I
that.
was gonna ask you that. I was gonna right before the dog barked. I was gonna
Hmm.
say, but did you know what it
No,
was
I
when
didn't.
it
I mean, I thought, it's just like, oh, that's kind of cool, like,
right?
well, whatever, whatever. But I remember my choir teacher was really emotional about it. I remember he was just like had tears in his eyes just after the show, or like after he met
Hmm.
him or something. It was just like, you guys don't, he even said, you guys don't even understand how good of an opportunity this is. So,
Oh.
and he was right.
That's awesome, Sammy. That's a
Yeah.
great story.
Mhm.
That's really cool. So, Kansas Wayward Son is playing over the
Yes.
recap.
Yes.
And on top of all the clips that they actually chose to use in the recap, the power of that song was just I was like, "Oh, this is going to be a big episode."
Yeah.
Once they've I mean, it's another John episode, dad
Hmm.
is definitely back in the picture.
Yeah.
And all the emotions that go with that, the good, the bad. you
Yeah.
know, they love him, they hate him, they love him, they hate
Yeah.
him. I'm gonna do a quick map quest across the board
Yeah.
moment.
Hmm.
So we're in, I think we do 4 different locations in this episode that not everybody goes to, but
Yes.
that are gone to.
Uh-huh.
So we visit Blue Earth, Minnesota,
Mhm.
which is real, a real
Mhm.
town, which
Mhm.
I at first thought was not. How could something named Blue Earth be a town? But it is. Manning, Colorado
Mhm.
is from the previous episode.
Mhm.
Um, Salvation, Iowa, fictional.
Yes.
And Lincoln, Nebraska totally exists. I looked
Yes.
it up.
You looked up
Kidding.
Lincoln,
I'm kidding.
Nebraska.
I'm kidding. I'm
Are
kidding.
you that out of touch with the Midwest? Although I was almost like I could believe Salvation, Iowa being a real place, but
Yeah.
also I think they just needed a not a punny name
Well,
for the town, but kind of a punny
yeah.
name.
Yeah. Absolutely. Oh, I forgot to mention during the recap, one of the things that kept coming up, like Flash 2, was like Sam. I mean, I talked about John, but Sam and his pain, his visions.
Ah, yes.
There's a lot of his that was a little foreshadowing for the upcoming episode.
Yeah, totally. Okay,
So
so we're in to start with Blue Earth, Minnesota. And we see a pastor in a church, doing pastory things like, lighting candles or something like that.
priesting.
Yes, priesting. And in walks Meg, who we've last seen in Shadow. It's
Right.
been a little while since we've seen her. She sits down and she starts kind of confessing to this priest, saying like, "Oh, I've stolen, I've lied,
So
simple sins."
blatantly fake though. So I start this is the point where I start to get annoyed with Meg. It's one thing to be bad, and evil
Mhm.
as a demon, but now I'm just like I don't like her. Like I don't like this portrayal. I don't like what her character is turning into. Not because she's a
Mhm.
demon, but because
Uh-huh.
of this how fake she is and that people aren't like, "What are you doing here?" you know? Do you have sins to confess or not? Don't give me these baby doe eyes and oh I
Yeah.
didn't know and oh okay, so rant over. I'm not liking Meg.
Okay. So she ends this little cutesy confession with admitting that she slit someone's throat and ripped their heart out of their chest. And then at like 2 minutes 53 seconds, she blinks and she opens up her solidly black eyes.
Yes, that's the first time we see demon eyes. Like
Uh,
black demon eyes,
from
except
her
for
Phantom Traveler, there were black demon eyes.
yeah, they weren't quite this black. But yes,
Yeah,
you're
they
right. This is
were.
the first time we see it from Dean. I thought it was like weird.
No, they were
All right.
solid black,
No,
but they weren't
you're
like
right.
close up, and they didn't do blink open to black and then blink
Right.
back to normal.
Okay. Okay,
But
so yes, this is the yes, we all thought she was a demon. Now we all know she is a demon or possessed by a demon.
well, I think we knew that she wasn't human,
Right.
you know. I mean, we know
Right.
that she's a demon because we've seen this before, but but we knew that she wasn't human since she fell out of that building and survived. Like there she is, and then
Right.
this is the first moment where it's like, oh, she's
Oh, she's a demon. That's
she's
why
the
she
demon.
lived. She
Yes. So this
right.
pastor is surprised, but not in the way that you would expect. He
Right.
wasn't just like, "Oh my god, what the hell are you?" He was more like, "You are not supposed to be in here."
You shouldn't be in a church. It's
Yeah.
hallowed ground. So
Uh-huh.
he clearly knows demon evil.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not just a priest.
Further proving it by going into like a safe room that is filled with weapons
It's the
of all
arsenal.
kinds. Yeah.
It's a hunter's arsenal that you wouldn't necessarily associate with a priest.
Right. But there he is, and he locks the door, and Meg breaks it down, no problem.
She basically he's like he tries to kill her, throws a knife at her.
Yeah.
She's able to catch it, and you throw like a girl, which insulting to women. But and he's like, "What do you want?" And so Meg tries to get the priest to tell her where the Winchesters are, and the priest says, "No, I'm not gonna. Even if I knew, I wouldn't tell you."
Yeah.
And so she kills him.
Yeah.
She slits his throat. That's what she does. That's it. That's it
Yep.
for the priest.
Yep. Title screen.
Yep. So the next thing we see is the cabin back in Manning, Colorado. So the Winchesters are still in
Hmm.
Colorado. I just want to point out the shot starts out on like a taxidermy deer head. That deer, it's the third time we've seen this deer, by the
Yeah.
way. Yep. So reuse your props.
Mm.
John is he's telling Sam and Dean about how this has all been coming together,
Yeah.
that there's been signs that stuff has been happening. And I don't know how he figures it out, but he's figured out that the demon is going after 6-month olds.
Yeah. Families who have children that are turning exactly 6 months old, or
Hmm.
he goes after them that night, and it's the same way. He burns the house to the ground, with the mother up
Yep.
on the ceiling, or we assume. Yeah, this room is plastered in research and papers
Yeah.
and clippings and books and everything. Yeah, I don't know how he's really figured this out, but I guess he's been searching for this for like 22, 23 years.
Right.
So,
And he's like, I should have seen the signs, but this is what it is. This is what
mhm,
we figured out, that it goes after families who have 6-month olds. And Sam is like, was I 6 months old? And John was like, yeah, that day would have
yeah,
been your 6 months. And Sam, of course, internalizes this. It's
hmm,
my fault,
yeah,
and he just starts down that rabbit hole right
yeah,
from the beginning.
right,
um and he's like, this is my fight, and I've got to finish this, and it's my fault. And Dean steps in, thankfully, and doesn't physically shake him, but is like, it's not your fight, it's our fight.
hmm.
You're not alone in this. It's not your fault.
But John also figures out that there are signs that
Like,
pre
predict or
yeah, or predate the
pre
the incident. I don't know. But anyway, these signs that lead up to the incident
yes.
are electrical storms, cattle deaths, and like temperature fluctuations. And all of these things also happened right before Mary Winchester was killed and Jess was killed in Palo Alto.
I don't know how many cattle are out there in Palo Alto, but whatever was out there, it died.
Yep.
And but all of those things, remember I said that his that Elkins journal from the previous episode, there was all these things that he wrote down about all this stuff is happening in Lawrence.
Oh yeah.
He said the signs are happening in Lawrence. And then he was like,
Uh,
and John Winchester just told me that, Mary
Mary
died.
died. Oh.
So Elkins knew.
Well, he knew about the signs, but maybe he didn't know what was going on exactly.
Like he
Or
yeah, he didn't connect the dots. I just meant he wrote it down.
yeah,
Like
sure, sure.
it was something that
It was
he
on
was
his
figuring
radar.
out.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So now these things are happening in Salvation, Iowa.
Yes. So off they go.
And of course, as they drive into town, there's a shot on the sign that's like, welcome to Salvation, except this one is like, thank you for now leaving Salvation, Iowa,
Hmm.
right? One of those signs.
Um,
Like
I don't know
as you
if it
drive
says.
out of town, it's like, bye. Thanks for coming to
Excuse me. I don't know
salvation.
if it said bye. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it said
I
like
did.
now
What I
leaving.
noticed was like the lotto bit
They didn't
over the
spell
side,
lotto right. Yeah.
or like it's like why would they put? And maybe that's a common thing for towns to put, or like a winning lotto number, or I don't know.
Yeah, who knows? But
Small
yeah, they
town
spelled it
fun.
wrong, which is funny. Um, but also at the bottom, it's like, "Are you ready for Judgment Day?"
Oh,
It's it had like the town's slogan on it that was like America's Heartland,
yeah,
and then
yeah.
at the very bottom it said, "Are you ready for Judgment Day?" And they made it look like it was a Bible verse, like JW 227, but there is no Bible verse that says, "Are you ready for Judgment Day?" And there's no JW in the Bible.
Maybe John Winchester
John
put
Winchester,
it.
right? Yeah, I think it was kind of a playful foreshadowing.
Right, of course it was. But anyway, so on the way to Salvation, Iowa, John all of a sudden pulls off the road and the boys follow him. And John gets out of the car. He's really distressed. He's like slapping the car and he's like, damn it. Turns out that Pastor Jim has died. And
Yeah.
Pastor Jim was mentioned in Something Wicked. He was the one, he's like the emergency contact.
Yeah, if you're in trouble, call Pastor Jim. Like he was
Yeah.
supposed to be their lifeline.
Yeah. So
And
another hunter called him Caleb and told him, Pastor Jim is dead. His throat was slit and he bled out. There were also signs of sulfur at his
right.
place. So
So Pastor Jim was the priest that Meg just killed.
yes.
So, question for you. Question for Sammy. If there were signs of sulfur at the church where Pastor Jim was killed,
Mhm.
why is this the first time that we've noticed that Meg has sulfur tendencies? Because there was no sulfur during Shadow, you know, like when she got thrown out the window, there was no sulfur. When she was licking Dean, there was no sulfur. Like she hasn't left sulfur before.
Right.
So that was just a question. I mean, I know you don't have the answer, but it was just one of for me going, wait, if they're now introducing again that demons and sulfur go together, why is this the first time that we've noticed sulfur in association with Meg?
I don't know because I feel like, and then spoiler alert, in the future when they always discover sulfur, it's after the demon is gone.
Oh,
I don't ever remember, and I may be proven wrong during this whole rewatch, like when a demon is in their presence where they sniff it and when they sniff the air and they're like, oh, do you smell that? It's sulfur. It's usually they have to like pick it up and then smell it.
right.
And it's usually no demon in the room at the time.
All right.
That would be my explanation. Because also, when they saw Meg fall out of the window, they were like, oh, look, she's dead. So they wouldn't go back down there and go,
Well,
search the area.
right. No, I was just thinking if she was in that space that there would have
Right.
been
Would it
sulfur because
smell
she
like
was,
sulfur?
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
She stinks. You
Hmm.
stink, Meg. Um, but okay. I mean, it's an unanswerable question at this point.
Or
So
just like they just throw in sulfur whenever they need it.
it, there we go.
Because as I said earlier, and the first time they mentioned sulfur back again in Phantom Traveler, that form of sulfur doesn't actually have a scent.
Smell. Right. So it was just a device, we'll just
Yes,
say.
plot
Oh,
device.
plot device. I just spent a lot of time on the podcast talking about something that we didn't really need to
No.
talk about.
So they speculate that maybe it was the demon that was
Yeah.
doing this. Like John
Yeah.
is really, really upset about Pastor Jim, and I mean, this is just like
Another friend.
another friend, another preventable death,
Right.
from this one demon that he just can't seem to
Can't
get his
seem to.
hands on.
Right. Did you notice that like John in those shots looked like he had been like dragged behind the truck? He looked so ragged.
Yeah,
He
he
was
did.
he looked I mean, it was raining in the shots, but
Hmm.
he looked like he'd been left in the rain while Dean and Sam did not.
Yeah,
And I'm like, he must just be wrecked, literally wrecked, that they made him look so downtrodden and
yeah.
defeated.
Hmm.
And so this isn't just like, oh, another loss.
Hmm.
It's like,
Hmm.
oh my God,
When is this ever going to end? And he wants this to end now. So they're all going to split up and go to these different hospitals and get every single record of any infants born, exactly 6 months ago from within the week.
right, right. Which slightly monumental task.
Yeah.
Um,
But, they do it.
yep.
John goes to hospital, he pulls out from his stash of IDs.
Massive
Yes.
stash of fake IDs. It looked like it was an EMT badge, but maybe it
Yeah,
was,
something hospital
yeah, it had
worker-ish.
the like Caduceus
Mhm.
star thing on it. But it's still, it takes him a minute. He doesn't just like hop out of the car. He
Yeah.
like has to kind of gather himself.
Yeah.
Um, I was happy to see though that it was a hospital that didn't have stairs.
Right. It looked like an actual hospital.
Yes, it did.
Sam is at another one looking up birth certificates.
Did you notice the date on the birth certificate though
Mm.
that he was looking at? Said the child was born in 1998, so slightly older than 6 months.
Yeah,
I was like, really, guys? Come on, props. Fell down on the job a little bit on
that's
that one.
funny.
Yeah. 1998, so slightly older than 6 months. But yeah, so you were saying Dean.
Oh, and Dean is at yet another one, getting distracted by a hot nurse.
Of course. I have to say, at first I wrote down like horn dog, but then I was
Yeah,
like, I don't think he could actually help himself in that moment
no,
because she was stunning.
yes.
And she totally set him up too. Anything I can do for you? And he's like, oh God,
Yeah.
yes. I don't think he could have helped himself. So I wrote down horn dog, but then I kind of backpedaled. I was like, I can see that. I can give him that one. That's okay. That's okay.
But
And yeah, and she gets it too, though. She's like, okay.
yeah. But then he kind of does a he, you could almost see him do like the little cartoony shake, like head shake, the boo, like snaps out of it, and he's like, "Well, actually,
To
I'm
work.
working." Pulls out
Yep.
his badge. He's a cop
He's
in
a
this
cop. Yep.
farce. So they're all doing their due diligence. And then as Sam is leaving whatever hospital he's at, he starts to have a vision.
Visions. He's got the and intense pain.
Hmm.
You know, I was reading online, and I shouldn't have done it, but I did. That people are kind of mocking Jared Padalecki for his like all he can do is like grab his head in pain,
Hmm.
to signify that he's getting visions. I'm like, have you ever had a headache?
Right. That's
You
what you
know,
do. You grab the
you
place where
the
you're hurting.
yeah, and it's like, or those headaches when you have like when you can just feel your pulse in your head and every
Yes.
heartbeat hurts. So I was like, screw you guys. He's
Yeah.
having. How do you know what having visions feels like? And what do
Right.
you do when your head's in pain, especially like right behind your eyes?
Yeah.
You grab it and you're like, oh, make it stop. That's what you do. That is a very human response. So screw you, naysayers. All right. So you were saying.
So he's grabbing his head because it's in pain having a vision. And he sees a woman and a baby like in a nursery room. It's nighttime. She's in a nightgown.
Nightgown.
There's a mobile, right? Is that what it's
A
a
mobile.
mobile above
Mobile.
his?
Yeah.
Can it be? It
Yep.
can be either way, right? Mobile.
I think the things that hang from your ceiling are called mobiles.
Okay, I think it can be both.
Okay. All
But
right. So
there's a
there's
twirly thing
child's toys. Yes.
above his crib, and there's a train outside.
You can hear train horns.
Right, and even the woman, she like opens up the curtain to kind of look outside. I guess listen to the train, watch the train.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Waiting for the baby to go to sleep.
Right.
Yep.
So then Sam pulls out his map of the neighborhood.
Yeah. Well, these visions though that Sam is having, it's like each time there's a flash, he
Hmm.
sees more.
Yeah.
There's like something else that's introduced, and
Hmm.
then something else that's introduced.
Yeah.
But like you said, he pulls out a map and he's able to triangulate on this map train tracks and where this house might be based on where the tracks run through the town. And he finds himself in front of the house. It turns out it is the house. And he just so happens that the mom that he had in his visions is walking the baby down the sidewalk in the stroller,
Yeah.
doing just gonna take a moment to say, if you can't have a real baby in a carriage and you have to use a doll, can you at least cover the doll in a way so that the camera doesn't see that it is a doll with unblinking eyes? Just like it was so obviously a doll in that baby stroller. Uh, But all right. I'm just ranting a bit on this episode. I apologize.
Yeah,
I've got more. So just
can't wait.
relax. It's going to come out.
So yes, he sees the vision woman, goes straight to her, and has a semi not creepy conversation with her. I
Yeah,
mean, if
not
someone approached me on the street, I would not be having it like that, no matter
he
how cute you are.
he like semi accosts her.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, here, let me hold this. Uh,
Yeah.
what's your name? What's your baby's name? How long
Yeah,
have you lived
oh,
there?
how
How old is
cute.
your
What a
baby?
baby.
Yeah, it was so unsam. You know what I mean? He's like
Yeah,
usually Mr. Empathy, feel it out type of guy, and he was so awkwardly abrupt and creepy.
yeah, it's like in these times of urgency, he kind of
Mm,
can't keep his shit together, you know?
yeah. No, that's a very good point. Yeah.
Because it was like that in the like in Providence, right? You know, he's like cool talking Sarah, the chick, but then like when something out of the blue happens, like, oh, we sold a painting yesterday. He's like, what?
Yeah.
What? You know, he just
Yeah.
can't. He's not
That go
quite as
with the
fast.
flow
Yeah.
doesn't. Yeah.
So anyway, this woman's name is Monica,
Yeah.
which is funny because that's my sister's name.
Oh.
So it was like Sam and Monica. Cute. Baby's name is Rosie.
Very sweet. While he's grilling this mother about her baby, he's like, "Wow, great baby." She's like, "Yeah." She like never cries. She just kind of sits and stares, almost like she's reading your mind.
Mm-hmm.
I don't
Mm-hmm.
know what that means. No, and I don't know if Sam was like, I
Yeah.
wonder if this baby has abilities. I don't know if he had that thought, but
Mhm.
it was just the way she prefaced it that me as a viewer, I was like, ooh, I wonder if this
Yeah.
baby,
Is
you
reading
know,
my mind right now. So he leaves her, you know. I wrote not getting any less creepy Sam, like the more he's like talking to her. So he leaves her, she meets up with her husband, and then he has another part of his vision, I would say like his final one for
yeah,
this, like the completed one.
yeah.
And he sees like the incident, the mobile. I'm by the way, I'm saying that in the British way. So it's, I looked at
It's like, didn't you mock me for laboratory? So
did. The mobile stops spinning. The clock stops. I couldn't tell what time it stopped at because it was like hidden by half of it. But anyway, it stops. But then the mobile spins again without any music.
that stupid clown. There was a
Hmm.
clown
Yeah, that
hanging
they were really
from it.
focusing on.
Like, I hate clowns. They also focused on there was like a light, like a night light, a little spinning nightlight with dancers on it.
Mm,
I mean, not like a plug, not nightlight in the typical sense. It was this little
yeah, I know what you're talking
carousel.
about. Yeah.
And I was like, why? The camera kept focusing in on that. I was like, what am I supposed to be looking at?
For it
Why
to
this little
stop. I think
Yeah, I
any
guess.
kind of things in motion that could stop, the
Stop.
creepier it is.
They did. Okay.
And then they move again, and there's no more music, no more little lullaby. There's a figure standing in the room, completely enshadowed.
Yep.
And Monica comes into the room again and says like, "Hey, what do you do?" You know, but then he mind blasts her to the wall,
Yep.
drags her up the wall and up to the ceiling, which that movement, because it was so slow, was really creepy. You know, it wasn't like a
Yeah.
fast one. It was just like she was like
It was
slow.
just like, yeah, so it's kind of like the demon is just like, you just stay up there on the wall type of thing.
Yeah, yeah. Slits her stomach or something. You don't really see it. You just see the blood seeping from her and
Through,
like into her and through her nightgown, like
yeah.
near her stomach.
It's the same place where it
Mhm.
happened to Jess, same place it happened to Mary.
Yep.
We don't see how they get cut. It's just
Yeah.
suddenly they start bleeding from
Yeah.
their abdomen. Yeah.
Hmm.
And of course, Monica's terrified and
Hmm.
she's been calling out Rosie's name,
Hmm.
can't get to her baby. And then then it cuts to Sam retelling this to John and Dean back at the cabin.
The crib bursts into flames first.
Oh,
Like
it does.
that's
Okay.
the end of the vision, is like the crib is kind of the ignition point of the fire. And then yes, it cuts to the boys back in
Yep.
their
With Sam
cabin.
saying, and that's how my vision ends.
Yes,
So
yeah.
he's been retelling this vision
Uh-huh.
to Dean and John. And John's like, what how long has this been going on for? What do you, you should have called me. And of course, Dean calls him out on that bullshit.
Oh,
Like,
yeah,
call
that was,
you.
like, a breaking point for Dean. He was just like, "Are
Yeah.
you fucking kidding me?"
He's like, done. We could never reach you,
Yeah.
call you,
Yeah,
done with this. And
yeah.
John's like, all right, while I don't like this new tone of yours, Mr. Talkie Backy, I guess you're right. Now, I have a question for you, Sammy.
Mhm.
John here is acting like he's surprised that Sam has this ability.
Yeah.
But during home, when he's talking to Missouri, Missouri says, imagine having those powers and not being able to sense your own father. And she says that to John.
Yeah.
So John knew.
Yes, John knew, but Sam doesn't know that John knows, so he has to
He has to
he's gotta
act
he's
like he
gotta
didn't
act
know.
like he didn't know.
Okay, because that
Because think about
I didn't
how
sense that.
think
So
about how mad Sam and Dean would have been if they knew, like, "Oh, I actually was in Lawrence, right across the street from you, hiding out in Missouri's house when you were there while you've been looking for me for 6 months," or whatever it had been at the time.
right. Okay, good point. Good point. I didn't think of that. I was just like, aha, he knew. He's lying. Yeah, that was my But so John relents. Just another kind of funny note about this scene. They're in a motel, right?
Mhm,
And John is sitting, I think, on the bed. Dean is standing off like in the kitchen-ish
mhm,
area, and Sam was sitting at like the kitchen table.
mhm.
Jared Padalecki is so freaking tall that him sitting in that chair, like his knees were above the height of the chair. I'm like, it looked like he was like at a parent teacher conference,
Yeah,
and
sitting in
sitting in
the
like the
desk.
middle school.
Yeah,
Yes. And I just kind of giggled in that moment, and it made me mad because I was like, oh my God, this is such a serious moment,
yeah,
But I was like, he must be so uncomfortable sitting in that chair.
yeah,
But then Meg calls,
yeah,
totally breaks whatever train of thought they were.
uh-huh.
But as far as Sam and Dean know, she's dead.
Yes.
Like she got
So,
thrown out a window by shadows.
yeah, yeah, so they, A, now know that she's alive, and B, know that she's not human since she is alive from being thrown from the building.
Right.
But
Um,
she wants to talk to John. Sam relents after trying to lie and say, "Oh, he's not here," but she can see right through that. So she is in a room with Caleb, who was the hunter that had called John to let him know of the news of Pastor Jim.
right. And he was also the same guy that I think Dean called a while back for some
Yes,
information.
yes,
And Sam was like, how did you get that answer? And Dean's like, I know things. Or I
yeah,
called Caleb.
yeah, yeah. They brought back like all the people that they've been mentioning throughout this
Yeah.
season. He's tied to a chair, gag over his mouth. She releases it just enough so he can yell out to John to
Like,
don't
don't do
do it.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Stay away. Don't do it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. She wants the Colt.
Yeah. She's like, bring me the cult, or else I'll keep killing, your friends.
Yeah.
And John says, I'm not going to do that. She's like, okay.
Mm-hmm. Swing.
And slits Caleb's throat.
Yep.
And John hears this. He
Yeah.
hears this over the phone. And
Yeah.
you just hear him like gagging and dying.
Uh-huh.
But having just listened to another friend get murdered,
Mm-hmm.
he acquiesced. He's like, okay, I'll bring you the cult.
Yep.
And he's like, I can be there in 24 hours. And she's like, no, tonight, midnight.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, I can't do that, and I can't just bring a gun on a plane. And she's like, oh, I guess I'll just have to keep killing your friends then.
Yeah.
And I looked it up. The farthest point of Iowa from Lincoln,
Lincoln.
because she's in Lincoln,
Mm-hmm.
Nebraska. We didn't mention that, but she's
Yep.
in Lincoln. Is I'm going to say Dubuque, Iowa,
Mm-hmm.
and that's maybe a 6-hour drive.
Yeah. It's not
So
far at all.
it's not that far. So I was thinking it was going to be at least a 12-hour drive or something, but
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know what time it is there, but
Mm.
yeah, I think it's doable. Which obviously it is doable because he does it.
Yes. Yes. He was just trying to buy some time, I'm sure. Like,
Yeah,
so he could fight this demon with the
right.
boys. That was my assumption. It's like, no, first I want to do this, and then,
And then yeah, and
okay,
then you can have
fine,
the
yeah,
gun because
yeah,
we'll kill this guy and it'll
yeah,
be
yeah,
fine. We'll kill him.
or I'll kill you. I don't know.
Yeah, but they also once he hangs up and the boys are talking again, John says, she's a demon or she's possessed by one, and I
Mhm.
don't understand the difference.
I didn't either until I was doing a little bit of research. in
Mhm.
the supernatural world, or in the, I guess, I mean, the demon lore that exists, not in just in supernatural, but in the world, is vast, and it would take too long to take up here. But there are demons who possess people, and there are demons who are just demons. The shadow demon, for instance, is just a demon. They don't need to possess anybody. They can just be a demon. And in
Uh,
supernatural anyway, they're like a shadow form.
right.
So maybe he was saying like, oh, this is a demon that can just appear as human, not necessarily be possessed by human. Because I was
Gotcha.
confused at first as well, but I think it's because, spoiler alert, we know demons in this world to be pretty much strictly possession kind.
Right, they can be expelled
Yes.
from the body.
Yes.
Yeah.
But we also have to remember this is their first, these are the first encounters really with demons. Like the
Right.
first one that they had ever in their life was Phantom Traveler, and that was like 18 episodes ago or something.
Right. So, okay, John's big plan now is to not give Meg the Colt, it's
Mhm.
to give her a replica, a fake.
Yeah.
Because he's like, no one else has seen it other than some vampires, and we
Mhm.
killed one of them. So
Yeah.
I think we're good in trying to
Yeah.
pass off a fake gun. So they send Dean off to go to an antique store. Again, I just want to point out how wrecked John is.
Yeah.
He is running out of steam.
Mhm.
He just seems so resigned to, having to go face Meg with a fake gun instead of being able to stay
Yeah.
and kill this demon. He's like, I like you said, I just want to go kill this demon. I just want to go kill,
Yeah.
the bad guy, but now I have
Yeah.
to go deal with Meg and I have
Yeah.
to leave the boys.
Yeah.
All my friends are dying.
Yeah. Yeah. Even like in the scene before, like right before we cut to this, he's just like, first the boys are mad. He's just like, so you want us to do this by ourselves? You're not going to be with us. We should be doing this all together. And he's just like, I don't even care about that anymore. I just want this to be over.
Over.
I'm
Yep.
tired.
Yeah. Yeah. Dean needs a home. You need to go back to
Yeah.
school. I want my wife back. None of that is going to happen.
Yeah.
So let's just end this. I want to say that train bridge that
Mhm.
they're outside now when they're packing, I guess, to send John off to Nebraska.
Mhm.
Have we seen this train bridge before? I
I
feel like
feel
we
like
have.
six other times we've seen it before.
Because it's just so stunning. It's just
Yeah.
so stark in contrast to things around it. It's like I love that train bridge.
Yeah, I do too.
But so we see John like closing up the tailgate to the truck. He's
Mhm.
obviously done a count of what stuff he needs, and
Mhm.
he's ready to go. They're just waiting
Yeah.
for Dean to come back with the fake gun. And of course Dean succeeds. He has found a replica. As John's getting ready to leave, he's explaining to the boys again like how important it is uh that the Colt be used properly. This is our last chance. There's only
Yeah.
4 bullets left. Make each shot count.
Mhm.
Um
Because
if
the gun is worthless without these bullets.
Right. And again, he's just so resigned. He's just
Mhm.
so, he's telling the boys, finish the fight I started. This is now out of my hands. This is up to you.
Mhm.
I'm going to go do this other thing as a distraction so that you can go kill this demon, and you have to succeed because I can't.
Mhm.
And he's saying goodbye. He's saying goodbye to the boys. And, Dean again is more, he's emotionally grounded more so than Sam. And he says this things like, oh, Valerie says the thing. Don't die. Like, don't
Yeah.
go get yourself killed. We
Mhm.
still need you. You
Yeah.
matter to us. It's not just about killing the demon. We need you as us.
Yeah.
And Dad John is like, okay,
Yeah. Same.
bye.
Yeah.
Yeah, bye. And Dean says, later. So
Yeah.
Dean doesn't say goodbye.
No.
He's like, all right, later. I
Mhm.
will see you later.
Yeah.
So I think it's, having watched as much of the series as I have, I know that Dean has these moments, these emotional moments, that because he's like the tough guy out of the group, when he has these emotional moments, it means so much more to me
Mhm.
that he says them and that he puts them out there, as
Yeah.
opposed to if it were Sam being, the emotional one.
Right.
Um So I took a moment in Dean saying later, and I was like, yes,
Mm-hmm.
good Dean,
Mm-hmm.
strong Dean moments in this episode.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so next we see John getting out of his truck. I assume it's in Lincoln. I assume it's at or near midnight. He's at the what I assume is the warehouse that he's supposed to be meeting
Yeah, it's
Megan.
like an old mill or
Yeah,
something.
yeah. And he's just
Yeah.
kind of scoping the place out.
And then back in Iowa, Sam and Dean are sitting in the car in the Impala outside of Monica's house. They're just waiting for the demon and having that same talk. What do we do? Do
Mm-hmm.
we wait for the demon? And how do we get them out of the house? I don't think we can get them out of the house. What if we did tell them there's a gas leak? And they're like, how often has that worked? Well, it
Yeah.
didn't work in bugs. What if we tell them the truth? That's not
No.
gonna work. I just the both of them at the same time are like,
Nah.
nah. We'll just do what we do, which is wait
Mm,
until the bad guy shows up, and then we stop the bad guy from doing the bad thing.
yeah.
That's what we do.
And then back in Lincoln, Meg shows up to this warehouse. She turns around just in time to not see John there because he was standing on the roof somewhere. And then she walks away. And then when the coast is clear, John
I,
scoots back out.
right. I do love that John beat Meg there. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
I could never make it there in time, but
Yeah.
he got there
Yeah.
before her.
He climbs up the water tower, opens it up, and starts to say a blessing in Latin, holding a rosary, and
Yeah,
then throws the rosary in the water.
into
So
the water tank.
into the water
Yeah.
tank, yeah. So he must be an ordained member of the church.
So much we don't know about John Winchester.
I know.
And so back in the car, Sam now has his emotional kind of
Mhm.
moment. And he, of all the things he says to Dean, thank you. I just want to take this time to thank you. And first Dean says, thank me for what?
Mhm.
And the gist of it is Sam is saying, you've always been there. You've always been the one who comes through for me. And I just wanted to take this moment to say thank you. And Dean's like, yeah, what are you saying this just in case, you die so that
Mhm.
I know that you thank me? He's like, no, I'm not having any of this. And he's like tired of hearing everyone being so defeatist. And that he's like, that's it. Just in case. Yeah, no. And the shot moves away from them and you can see Dean's face. He's like getting as tired as John is. He's
Yeah.
really upset by his dad thinking he's just going to die and now Sam is starting to say the exact same thing.
Mhm.
But he can't
Yeah.
look at Sam anymore. He like says that thing. He's like, "No." And then he looks away. He's like, "I'm just going to watch the house for the demon guy.
Yeah,
I
because
can't
that's
talk
the
to
only
you right
guy
now."
that's dying tonight. Yeah. So back in Lincoln, John shows up to Meg and they quip for a while, do a little back and forth. Well, it's more Meg talking
Yeah.
at him and John just standing there stoically.
And she's doing stupid flirty things. Well, what do you think about that, baby?
He does call everyone baby.
I know, but I don't like it. It's so fake. It's just so false. That's another thing I just don't that's was grating on me.
Oh.
I'm sorry. That's
It's just-
me. It
I
just
liked her. I like Nikki Acox. I mean, she's like
oh,
she's a deliberate actress. She delivered her lines very deliberately and
yeah,
intensely, which is not natural. But I don't know, to me that made sense because she's not a natural thing.
right. I guess just for me in those moments, uh I feel like she was maybe trying too hard. It's
Mm,
like the Meg from before was I mean, she was pushy, but she wasn't fake.
I felt like she was more pushy in Shadow than she was in these, or trying too hard in Shadow
Oh,
than she was here.
I can see it, but
But the whole like licking Sam and then
yeah,
like the slowly crawling over to
right. I guess
Dean.
yeah, I guess the what I'm referring to it was like when she first came back and was like all in Dean's face about, "Oh, you're the shitty
Oh yeah,
brother."
yeah.
She's being rude and over the
Mm-hmm.
top, but she wasn't it wasn't fake.
Right.
But now I feel like she's just forcing a personality that isn't her.
So anyway, John is there with Meg. Before he passes the gun to her, he like just threatens to shoot her. It's just like I could just shoot you with this, but she's unfazed. She's like, there's more of me where I came from. And
Mhm.
on cue, some guy walks up behind her.
Some second person walks in.
Yep. Assumedly another demon, 'cause she says like, no, he's not nearly as fun as I am. So John hands over the gun.
Well, after she like demands it, she's like, enough, give it to me now.
Yeah.
She's
Yeah.
like, she's done
No
playing with
more, yeah,
John.
no more flirty
Yeah,
Meg, but she's just like,
yeah, now. And so he gives it to her.
She looks at it and then she hands it to the other guy, the other demon, who also looks at it. And he kind of, the way he's holding it and looking at John, it kind of looks like he's going to shoot him with it.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
But instead, it's like a really quick turn to Meg and he shoots her with the gun. And she is
Son of a bitch.
pissed.
It's like, oh my God, you shot me. She
Yeah.
seems so surprised. Like her
Yeah.
surprise and
Yeah.
then the pissed offness
Yeah.
is like, what? Gee, son of a, you just shot me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did like that moment. Not because she got shot, but her reaction in that moment, I actually did like. Not dead.
Yeah.
She's not dead, but she is super pissed.
Yes. But because she's not dead, that makes the guy say, "Oh, look that. It's a fake."
Yeah. But John has a good cover. He's like, how would I know
Yeah.
if it was fake or not? I've never fired the gun.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So then he makes a run for it.
Yeah. There's some noise that happens and they all turn their heads towards the noise and John runs in the other
It was
direction.
really like, "Look over there."
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And then he's like,
So he runs through the same tunnel that he was like lurking in before Meg showed up and
yeah.
turns on the pipes. And then this like shoot of water starts like spraying at them. They are standing on the grate though, so the water is pouring down the drain before it gets to them, before Meg and this other guy. But then the guy starts to make his way towards John and then just starts smoking. And he just starts like shrieking in
Yes.
pain.
It was very Spike from Buffy because
Yeah.
like Spike was always
He's
like
always
getting
smoking.
exposed, right? He was always like exposed to sunlight
Yeah.
inadvertently.
Yeah.
He was like always
He'd
the
walk around
vampire.
with just like that coat over his head.
You know? So when that happened, I was like, oh, that was very Spike.
Mm-hmm.
But they're like, oh, holy water.
Yeah.
And Meg's like, very clever. We don't like it.
It was clever though.
Yeah.
That was like pretty genius, like blessing that entire tank of
Yep.
water.
Yep. And it gives John a chance to run away some more.
Yeah.
So we see Dean and Sam again, back in the car, and like the wind is picked up outside. The car radio, they've been listening to sports or something, and the radio station starts to static. The lights in and around the house start to flicker,
Hmm.
and they're like, "It's coming." So they get out of the car. Dean and Sam are like, "This is it." So they get out of the car. They break into the house. It looks like the power is out now, so it's like completely dark inside. And as they're like making their way through the house to go upstairs to the nursery, they're attacked by the father
Hmm.
of the baby, the husband, with a baseball bat. And they try to convince him. They're like, "No, no, no, we're here to help you. We're here to help you." And he's like, "Get out of my house!" I mean, he's scared. There's guys in his house, and he's like, "Monica, get the baby and run." And Sam's like, "Don't go into the
No.
nursery. Don't do that." Sam is able to break free, leaving Dean to wrestle with the dad, and he chases Monica, who has run into the baby's room, and she runs in there, and sure enough, the demon is in the nursery, and she's like, and does the exact same thing that Sam saw in his vision, which is,
Hmm.
who are you, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
And he shoves her against the wall and starts to move her, up against the wall, that the way that he does. And Sam runs in
Yeah.
and is like, he sees the demon guy, and the demon looks into the camera, and
Uh-huh.
we see his face for the first time.
Just here, just like
Just
his
his,
eyes.
yeah, it's like his cheekbones to his eyebrows,
Uh-huh.
and he has glowing yellow eyes,
Yeah.
like almost snake-like a little bit.
They're
But they
weird,
were,
but like snake skin, not the
yes.
not the pupils like a snake, but
No,
they're
yeah,
like
like no, his face.
splotchy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was like his cheekbones like weren't it wasn't smooth skin. It was
Yeah.
like snakish, but not full scales. But you're right. Yeah, it was like blotchy.
Oh, well, I
And
meant his
he
eyeballs. I meant like the yellow part of his
oh,
eyeballs. That
is
it's
that
not
what
like
I saw?
it's not like a
Oh,
solid yellow. They're like
textured?
splotchy, yeah,
Yeah.
and it's not like up and down pupils.
Yeah, it wasn't yeah, no, it wasn't maybe that's when I wrote down snake eyes. It was because it wasn't snake eyes. It was like snake inside his eyes. I don't
Yeah,
know. It was
it did kind of look they were odd.
they weren't just yellow. They weren't like glowing yellow
Yeah.
like we've seen in skin where they glow
Mhm,
silver and stuff like
mhm.
that. No, it was like yellow.
Yeah,
Um and Dean pulls out the Colt
Sam.
and shoots at the demon and the demon disappears like poof does the smoky poof thing.
Yeah.
This gun shot a hole in the house.
Yeah, in the
Like
wall.
that bullet went through the house cuz like light shines in through the hole
Uh-huh.
um in the house and he's like where did it go? You know, where did it go? And Mary has sent not Mary, oh Valerie. Monica.
That was 22 years
Um
ago.
yeah. Monica has been released from the grips of the demon's power
Mhm.
and slides back down the wall and makes a run for the baby.
Yeah.
And that's when Dean comes running in.
Mhm.
And Dean's like, "You take Monica, I'll grab the baby." And
Yeah.
Dean scoops the baby out just as the crib bursts into flames.
Yeah.
And they all run out of the house.
Mhm. So meanwhile in Lincoln, John, well, earlier there was a brief scene where he like ran to his truck, but his tires were slashed. Ah, damn it.
That's a
Um,
drag.
yeah. So he's just running, kind of makes his way behind a wall, starts to make a phone call, but then he gets like mind blasted into the wall.
Yeah.
The guy demon shows up like
A
from this
red hallway.
hellish room. Yeah.
Right. Backlit by red lights.
Yes. And he's just like with his mind power, pressing John into the wall, and it's
Yeah.
very obvious that it's painful because
Yeah,
John's face is
he's not just hung on the wall. He
yeah,
is yeah, he's being crushed
yeah,
against the wall. Yeah.
yeah.
So Sam and Dean, having made it out of the house, look up just in time to see the nursery like explode.
Yes.
And it's almost the exact same explosion that
Yeah.
happened from Sam's nursery. And
Yeah.
so I made a note. I'm like, Sammy, now we know why that room exploded.
Yeah. Just
It's the
demons.
demon.
Yeah.
Yep. It wasn't, poor housekeeping,
No.
on John and Mary's part.
Yeah.
But they look up and they see after the explosion dies down a little bit,
Mhm.
the demon. The demon is in the flames in the
Yeah.
room.
Mhm.
And Sam is like, I'm gonna go get him and
Yeah.
starts to run to the house. And Dean is like, no,
Yeah.
that would be suicide. And Sam's like, I'm okay with that.
Right.
The demon has to die. And Sam's like, not if it means killing yourself to get him,
Yeah.
and Sam is pissed that Dean has stopped him
Mhm.
from running into a burning house to face a demon who clearly is fine with flames and can
Right.
avoid being shot by this
Right.
gun.
And then disappears like 2 seconds later anyway. So
Yeah, it's like
Sam would have died like 5 seconds into going into that house.
yeah. Yeah. So Dean is in control. Sam completely out of control. He is
Yeah.
emotionally,
Lost it.
yeah, he is not in control of himself, his emotions, anything.
Yeah.
Dean kind of, grounds him. He's like, You got to stop. You
Yeah.
can't kill yourself. It's not worth it. If we never catch this demon and it means that you live,
Yeah.
then that's fine." And Sam's like, "What
Right.
are you talking about?
Yeah.
We have to kill. We've been hunting this thing our entire lives." And Dean's
Yeah.
like, "You don't understand. Us three are all we have.
Mhm.
You are all I have, and I'm not holding it together right now."
Yeah. There's actually because they're at this point they're back in the motel room. There's a repeat almost of one of the scenes from the pilot, but reversed. Because Dean this time says they're gone and they're never coming back. And Sam is the one who like slams Dean up against the
Yeah.
wall out of anger,
Don't talk
saying,
to them like that about
yeah,
them like that. You
yeah.
told me that right. All right. So I missed a transition. I was just so caught up in the emotion because it's the exact
Oh
same
yeah,
emotional level that
it
it just
is.
goes from
Yes.
outside the
No,
house
totally.
to back at the motel. They're in the
Yeah.
exact same level of heightened
Mhm.
emotion
Yeah.
and
It
anger
doesn't
and
it doesn't
adrenaline.
really matter where they are,
Yeah.
they're but they're also not near a burning building anymore while this is
Right.
happening.
Okay. Well, thanks for pointing that out, Sammy. But the fact that Dean says, "You are all I have,"
Yeah.
he makes it about himself. He's like,
Mhm.
"I'm talking about my needs now.
Yeah, yeah. It's like,
You dying, dad dying, that's it for me."
yeah, you're just like gonna leave me hanging. It's like
Yeah.
I need you guys and I need
Yep.
this and I need you to not
Yep.
be such a
It's
suicidal maniac.
yeah. It's and so I think Sam snaps out of it. I
Yeah.
mean, that's what snaps him out.
He
It literally
literally
is
like
like
shakes.
click.
Yes. Mhm.
Yeah. He's like, "Oh my god, dad.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have to find dad."
Mhm. Yeah, there's
So
something
they
wrong he would have called by now.
yeah. Yeah. So we have to call dad. And they call dad.
Meg picks up though, and she says, "You're never going to see your father again." To be continued.
That's why I was like, "What? No.
Yeah.
Ah, I
Like,
didn't
I
know
do
it was a
not
two-parter."
remember this.
Yes. And so we don't know if John is alive or not.
No.
I mean, we kind of know he is just because Meg would have made a big scene, I think,
Right.
about killing him.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Or like called them while she was killing him.
right. So, but we're left to believe that maybe she has killed him or she will kill him and they'll never see him
Right.
again. So,
Yeah. We'll just have to wait till next week.
yeah. So my question is like, who was that other demon? Like, who was the guy? Like, he just literally walked in from out of nowhere.
Yeah. Just another minion like Meg
Yeah.
is, I would
Yeah.
assume.
I guess maybe a little bit
Excuse me.
more of a badass than Meg,
I guess so.
maybe.
I
Because
don't
I mean, the fact that she didn't retaliate against him for
Right.
shooting her,
Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, so an emotional episode, like
Yeah.
not like tearful, but just
It was heavy.
it was heavy and it's hard for me. It's hard to see men show emotional vulnerability. And I don't mean I don't like it. I mean it's
Mhm.
hard for me because I know it's hard for them
Right.
to express that.
Mhm.
Because they're always told that they have to be, men and strong and you don't show emotions and so they come across as not having emotions. In
Right.
this episode, like we saw the gauntlet
Yeah,
from
nothing but emotions.
yeah, and it was all three of them
Yeah.
and never the same emotion from at the same time.
Yeah.
Every those three guys were showing a different emotion from each other in every single scene.
Mhm. No, there's actually a kind of funny thing that Eric Kripke was talking about, where when he writes these emotional scenes, like between Sam and Dean, or even if John is thrown in, it's just like really, and these are his words, wussy. But then I think it was Robert Singer
Hmm.
comes in and like butches them up.
Oh, that's funny.
I don't know. I just thought that was really cute. This is like, oh, Eric Kripke, he like writes such like snappy little love scenes, so
In
to
comes
speak.
Bobby to
Yeah,
butch it up. That's great. Well, it worked. Congratulations, because
yeah,
that's exactly what it was. It was
yeah.
emotional, but butch at the same time. I mean, this wasn't like crying into your tea.
Mhm.
This was men at their breaking point.
Yeah,
It's like in like the war films. You see somebody who's like this take charge kind of person and they've got their guns, but as soon as one of their buddies is killed, it's like it stops and
yeah.
the reality of what just happened hits them
Mhm.
and they become human as
Mhm.
opposed to this like mechanical,
Yeah.
unemotional thing.
Mhm.
So Sammy, you know how we've been like shouting out friends and stuff like that?
Mhm.
I've been spending a little bit more time on Twitter and reading other people's blogs
Mhm.
and listening to their podcasts and stuff like that. Um, I stumbled across a couple that actually responded back to me when I responded to one of their posts. And Misfits and Mysteries podcast and blog actually asked me to leave them my ghost story that I told on one of our previous episodes.
Uh-huh.
and I did, and they're gonna post it. I made it
Yay!
into their podcast.
Woohoo!
So shout out to Misfits and Mysteries podcast and blog for putting my voice on the air. Oh, I'm so sorry. It's my voice. You can find them at Twitter on Twitter at podcast_misfits. So give them a listen. They're super funny. Their podcast is about exploring everything from the supernatural to the very natural. So it's fun stuff. And another podcaster who actually is another supportive podcaster. Like
Okay.
I've run this, the podcast community is for the most part really supportive of everybody else trying to make it as podcasters.
Yes.
And
And supportive
th-
of all the self-promotion that you kind of have to
yes,
do.
yes, and that we're all guilty of
Being
having to do.
annoying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes, exactly. So sorry, everybody.
Yeah.
Um, but this podcast 8750 has been super supportive of Salt and Burn This, so I wanted to give him a shout out. But also because the the tweet that I responded to was a question he asked, and he read my answer on the air, and it made me sound so lame. Um, that I wrote back and I was like, can I redo I redo this because everybody else had these like super awesome answers and mine was like, bunnies and butterflies and I was like, "Oh, no." So and he said yes. So I will get an opportunity hopefully down the line to come back and tell people how cool I actually am.
Nice. You get a mulligan.
Yes, yes.
Although not
So
quite a
8
mulligan because it is on the air.
oh, it's already out there forever and ever. So that podcast was 8750. And he's on Twitter at Yeti Yef, like, a Yeti.
Yes.
Yep. So, um, and his podcast is funny. It's just friends who are pick a topic and they talk about it. And it's
Nice.
usually, bullshitting, ball busting. But also there's some serious turns to the conversation. So it's good. It makes me happy that he took the time to reach out to me and to Salt and Burn This.
Hmm.
So 8750 and Misfits and Mysteries podcast and blog. If you guys could give them a look, give them a like, tell them we sent you.
Yes. Please go listen to them and like them and follow them right after you listen and like and follow and subscribe and rate us on all of the things, such as Twitter, where we are at Salt and Burn This, Facebook, at Salt and Burn This Pod, and the same for Instagram, at Salt and Burn This Pod. Rate us on Apple Podcasts, or if your particular platform allows rating, do that as well. We would greatly appreciate it. Share it around to your friends and family and your strangers and workplace acquaintances and all of that.
You can do what I did, which was force friends and family to listen and to rate.
Yes.
So thank you everybody. Thanks everyone
Yeah, I
who
might have to
rated
go that
us.
route too. So next week we wrap up season 1. Oh my god.
Oh my god,
I'm
Sammy.
still like, what?
It went by pretty
Where did this
fast.
go?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it seemed really daunting. Now, granted, we still have 14 seasons
Oh,
to
I know.
go,
Yeah.
but it started out as like, oh my gosh, this is gonna be so hard. I mean, it is hard,
Yeah.
but it went by super fast. And Sammy, I just want to say thank you. You're an amazing podcast buddy.
Oh, thank you. So are you.
Oh,
So, just a reminder, I think I've said it a few times. We're going to be going on a little bit of a hiatus after we wrap up season 1, which not quite sure yet if that will be 1 or 2 episodes. We'll see how long-winded we get next time we do this. But I promise I will not make it a long episode. But we're going to be going on a little bit of a hiatus. In that hiatus, I'll just be putting up our reruns of episodes that we've already done at semi-random. Like I won't start from the beginning, I'll just pick and choose some ones here and there, for you to dip your toes into or get caught up, into. It's not going to be really anything new going on. And we don't know how long the hiatus is going to last yet, but I don't know. I'd say a couple months maybe,
Who knows?
but not like 6 months, but
No, no, that's too long.
no,
We can't
just
stay away from each other for that long.
but since Valerie has work,
Yay, back in opera land.
I'm so happy for all of the opera people who are now back at work, and on stage and, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
posting
I mean,
pictures of their costumes and things. And
we still have a ways to go, but we're getting there.
yeah, yeah.
So
So that's that on that. We'll see you next week for Devil's Trap, where we
Devil's Trap.
continue from where Salvation just ended.
For part 2.
Yes. Thanks, everyone. See you next week. Bye.
Bye.